Do you ever feel like you're making choices, or simply choosing from options carefully curated for you? What if the very thoughts you believe are your own are, in reality, expertly guided currents within a much larger stream? In an age drowning in information, a select few have mastered the art of not just controlling the narrative, but subtly influencing the very perception of reality itself. This isn't about shadowy figures in back rooms. It's about understanding a timeless dynamic. Throughout history, certain individuals and groups, the elite, have sought to shape the beliefs and behaviors of the masses. From ancient emperors wielding propaganda to manipulate their populace, to modern tech giants subtly curating your social media feed, the underlying principle remains the same. Control of information equals control of perception, which ultimately translates to control of reality. This small group isn't necessarily acting nefariously. It's more so those who wish to maintain the status quo, but their control comes at the cost of others' freedom. Before we dive deeper, let's define what we mean by elite. We're not talking about a singular, monolithic entity. Rather, think of it as a network of individuals and groups across various sectors: politics, finance, media, technology, who possess disproportionate access to power, wealth, and influence. They understand how to leverage psychological principles, manipulate narratives, and exploit technological advancements to shape public opinion and maintain their positions. The aim here isn't to propagate unfounded conspiracy theories, but rather to examine the mechanisms by which influence is exerted, and how we, as individuals, can become more aware of these forces at play. Why should you care? Because understanding these dynamics is the first step toward reclaiming your personal autonomy. This is a journey of self-discovery, an exploration of how external forces can subtly shape your thoughts, beliefs, and ultimately, the choices you make in your life. Recognizing these influences allows you to break free from pre-programmed responses, make more authentic choices, and live a more fulfilling life aligned with your true values. The more authentic your choices, the more fulfilling your life will be. The implications of unchecked manipulation extend far beyond individual well-being. It erodes trust in institutions, fuels political polarization, and facilitates the spread of misinformation, leading to a society where truth becomes increasingly elusive. But this knowledge isn't just about defending against manipulation. It's about unlocking your hidden potential. It's about learning to consciously shape your own reality, manifest your desires, and contribute to a more informed and empowered world. This is where the true work to be done lies, and that work starts with reclaiming your power to think critically, become aware of the forces shaping your reality, and consciously choosing what you believe. Throughout history, techniques of social control and propaganda have been deployed in different forms. From wartime propaganda designed to demonize the enemy and rally support for the cause, to the subtle messaging embedded in advertising campaigns that exploit our deepest desires and insecurities, the methods evolve, but the underlying principles remain constant. That underlying constant is the exploitation of human fallacies. We're all vulnerable to manipulation because our brains are wired to take shortcuts, rely on emotions, and seek validation from others. The elite understand these vulnerabilities and exploit them to their advantage. At its core, this exploration hinges on understanding that reality is not a fixed, objective entity, but rather a subjective construct shaped by individual and collective beliefs. Our perception, interpretation, and the narratives we consume all play a critical role in shaping our experience of the world. What we perceive as objective reality is often a carefully curated narrative, a story crafted to influence our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. We'll delve into psychological tactics that subtly influence our choices and beliefs, explore how technology shapes our perceptions through algorithms and media framing, and examine how our deepest beliefs ultimately influence our experienced reality. As we journey forward, it's important to note how often information is presented to manipulate. It starts with presenting complex issues in overly simplistic terms, creating false dichotomies, or either-or fallacies that limit critical analysis. By framing debates as binary choices, the elite prevent the masses from considering alternative perspectives or nuanced solutions. Then there's the use of strawman arguments, misrepresenting opposing viewpoints to make them easier to attack. By distorting the arguments of their opponents, manipulators create the illusion of victory and further polarize the debate. What if the world you see is not what it seems? What if your beliefs have been carefully constructed for you, brick by brick, since the day you were born? And what if you had the power to reshape your reality, to dismantle the illusion and create a world aligned with your true values and desires? The elite have long possessed hidden knowledge and techniques for shaping reality, not through magic or esoteric rituals, but through a deep understanding of the human mind and the power of information. But I'm here to tell you that it's not only the elite that can discover this knowledge. In this video, we will explore exactly how these techniques work. More importantly, we will explore how you can reclaim your power to shape your own reality and what's at stake if you do not. Stay tuned as we reveal the specific psychological tactics used to manipulate your beliefs and how to defend yourself against them. We'll uncover the subtle ways in which technology shapes your perceptions and how to navigate the digital landscape with greater awareness. We will show you the secret to rewriting the code of your reality. To truly understand the scope of this control, let's delve into a specific historical example: Nazi Germany. Joseph Goebbels, the Reich Minister of Propaganda, masterfully weaponized propaganda to manufacture consent for the regime's horrific policies. He didn't just present information, he sculpted reality itself. How did he do it? Goebbels employed a range of tactics, beginning with the blatant lie. He understood that if you repeat a lie often enough, people will eventually believe it, especially if it aligns with their pre-existing biases or fears. The demonization of Jewish people was central to this strategy. They were falsely portrayed as enemies of the state, undermining German society and conspiring to take over the world. This created a convenient scapegoat for all of Germany's problems, diverting attention from the government's own failings and uniting the population against a common enemy. Coupled with blatant lies was the appeal to emotion. Nazi propaganda was designed to bypass critical thinking and trigger powerful emotions like fear, anger, and pride. Rallies, parades, and speeches were carefully orchestrated to create a sense of collective euphoria and national unity. The use of symbols, such as the swastika, and slogans, such as Ein Volk, Ein Reich, Ein Führer, one people, one nation, one leader, were designed to evoke strong emotional responses and reinforce the Nazi ideology. And what underlied this strategy? The creation of a us versus them narrative. By constantly emphasizing the differences between Germans and other groups, particularly Jewish people, the Nazis created a sense of solidarity and loyalty among their followers. This us versus them mentality justified discrimination, persecution, and ultimately genocide. By recognizing these tactics, we can see how the deliberate manipulation of information and emotions can lead to devastating consequences. But these tactics aren't confined to history books. Consider modern advertising. Don't advertisers use repetition to drill their message into your head? Don't political campaigns often rely on emotional appeals and us versus them narratives to mobilize voters? And what about the way social media algorithms curate your feed to show you content that confirms your existing beliefs? These are all echoes of Goebbels' playbook, adapted for the 21st century. The specific methods may have evolved, trading pamphlets for targeted social media ads, but the underlying psychological principles remain disturbingly familiar. So the question becomes, is it ever ethically justifiable to use these techniques to influence people, even if the intentions are seemingly good? Is manipulating someone into wearing a seatbelt morally equivalent to manipulating them into supporting a political ideology? Where do we draw the line, and who gets to decide? Before answering these questions, we must be fully aware of psychological manipulation. To truly inoculate ourselves against these influences, we need to understand the core psychological concepts at play. Cognitive biases, for example, are mental shortcuts that can lead us to make irrational decisions. Confirmation bias leads us to seek out information that confirms our existing beliefs, while anchoring bias causes us to rely too heavily on the first piece of information we receive. Framing effects demonstrate how the way information is presented can drastically alter our perception of it. An example of this is when a surgeon says there is a 90% survival rate versus a 10% mortality rate, when both scenarios mean the same thing. Then there's the power of suggestion, where subtle cues and hints can influence our thoughts and behaviors without us even realizing it. Think of the placebo effect, where people experience real physical benefits simply because they believe they are receiving a medication. How are these biases leveraged? These principles are actively exploited in everyday life. Advertisements use emotional triggers, sex appeal, fear, humor to sell products. Politicians use framing to sway public opinion, emphasizing certain aspects of an issue while downplaying others. Social media algorithms reinforce confirmation bias by feeding you content that aligns with your existing beliefs, creating echo chambers where dissenting voices are silenced. Consider a political ad that uses fear to motivate voters, or a news headline that frames a complex issue in a simplistic, biased way. These are all examples of psychological manipulation in action. But why are some individuals more susceptible to these tactics than others? Several factors can increase our vulnerability. A lack of critical thinking skills makes us less likely to question information and identify logical fallacies. Emotional instability can make us more susceptible to emotional appeals and fear-mongering. Social isolation can make us more vulnerable to groupthink and propaganda. And exposure to misinformation, especially from trusted sources, can erode our ability to discern truth from falsehood. The more these factors are in play, the more they amplify the effect of manipulation. But the game has changed, and these manipulations are being amplified by modern technology. Modern technology, particularly social media, acts as a powerful amplifier for psychological manipulation. Algorithms personalize content to reinforce existing beliefs and create filter bubbles, limiting exposure to diverse perspectives. This echo chamber effect can lead to increased polarization and a distorted view of reality. But it gets worse. Social media platforms can be used to spread misinformation, manipulate emotions, and influence behavior on a massive scale. Bots and trolls can amplify divisive content, echo chambers reinforce polarization, and fake news can spread rapidly through social networks, bypassing traditional gatekeepers of information. How much of what you see online is even real? Traditional media outlets also play a significant role in shaping public opinion. Selective reporting, biased framing, and agenda setting can all be used to influence the narrative and create moral panics or distract from important issues. This is how different news outlets can present the same event in completely different ways, depending on their political agenda or target audience. And what happens as AI gets more and more advanced? Artificial intelligence has the potential to be used for even more sophisticated forms of manipulation, creating personalized propaganda that is tailored to individual personalities and vulnerabilities. This raises serious ethical concerns about the future of persuasion and the potential for AI to be used to control human behavior on an unprecedented scale. But all of these forms of manipulation would be worthless if it wasn't for one thing. While manipulation plays a huge role in shaping our perceived reality, its effectiveness hinges on a crucial element: our underlying belief systems. Manipulation is the tool, but belief is the host. Our beliefs act as filters, shaping how we interpret information and experience the world. If we believe that the world is a dangerous place, we will be more likely to perceive threats and react with fear. If we believe that we are not good enough, we will be more likely to focus on our flaws and sabotage our own success. It's all a matter of perspective, as demonstrated by the observer effect in quantum physics. The act of observation can influence the outcome of an experiment, suggesting that our consciousness plays a role in shaping reality at the quantum level. Shared beliefs can shape societal outcomes, independent of objective reality. The placebo effect demonstrates how our beliefs about a treatment can influence our physical health. Mass panics can lead to irrational behavior and economic collapse, even when there is no objective reason to panic. Self-fulfilling prophecies can create the very outcomes we fear, simply because we believe they are inevitable. In other words, beliefs aren't just passive interpretations. They're active forces shaping our world. If beliefs shape reality, then changing your beliefs can change your world. We can choose how we engage in reality. Now that we've seen how our beliefs can be manipulated and how they shape our reality, let's look at what you can do about it, starting right now. Let's begin with a simple exercise to identify your limiting beliefs. Write down a list of your fears and insecurities. What are you most afraid of? What do you believe you are incapable of achieving? Then, question the validity of those beliefs. Where did they come from? Are they based on evidence or simply on assumptions and fears? Challenge those beliefs. Try cognitive restructuring, where you actively search for evidence that contradicts your limiting beliefs. Replace negative self-talk with positive affirmations. For example, if you believe you are not good enough, challenge that belief by listing your accomplishments and strengths. Replace the thought, "I am not good enough," with, "I am capable and worthy." Let's try this. Think of a past failure or a negative experience. Now, consciously choose to reinterpret that experience as a learning opportunity. What did you learn from it? How did it make you stronger? How can you use that experience to grow and improve? Notice how this shift in perspective changes your feelings about the situation. Feel the change in your heart and move to our next section to continue this journey of empowerment. If beliefs shape reality, then what shapes beliefs? What if the reality we experience is not just shaped, but actively programmed? Consider the idea that our reality is akin to a sophisticated computer simulation, like a video game, where we are characters within the program. If this were the case, then how would we know? And what would it mean for our lives? Simulations can exist on many levels of complexity. We might imagine ancestor simulations, meticulously recreating the past, or strategic simulations used to predict potential futures. But the most relevant to our discussion is the experiential simulation, one in which we are fully immersed and unaware of being in a simulation at all. Think of a highly advanced VR game, indistinguishable from reality. In such a simulation, would our experiences be any less real? Would our choices matter any less? Now, consider that if a civilization were advanced enough to create such a simulation, they might create many of them, so statistically it is more probable that we are in a simulation than in base reality. Arguments for and against the simulation hypothesis abound, and certainty is impossible. Philosophers like Nick Bostrom have argued that at least one of the following propositions must be true. Either humans will go extinct before reaching a point where they can create realistic simulations. A post-human civilization is unlikely to run a significant number of simulations, or we are almost certainly living in a computer simulation. Scientific possibilities, such as advancements in VR and AI, lend credence to the idea. Even anecdotal glitches in the Matrix déjà vu, strange coincidences have been cited as potential evidence. However, counter-arguments are equally valid. The computational power required for such a simulation may be unattainable, and the ethical implications of creating simulated beings are profound. The simulation hypothesis remains a thought experiment, a framework for exploring the nature of reality, not a proven fact. But what if it were true? Even within a simulated reality, our choices would still matter. Our actions would still have consequences within that reality. Critical thinking becomes even more crucial as we strive to discern truth from illusion within a simulated environment. Imagine trying to navigate a video game without understanding its rules or its programming. You would be at the mercy of the game's designers. Similarly, if our reality is a simulation, understanding its underlying principles could empower us to navigate it more effectively. Which begs the question, who might know the rules of the game? What if the elite, those individuals or groups who have historically held power and influence, possess knowledge about the simulated nature of reality? What if they have access to backdoors or admin privileges within the simulation, allowing them to manipulate it for their own benefit? This is not to say that there are programmers running our world. It just suggests that certain individuals or groups could be operating on a different set of information than the masses. This knowledge, if it exists, could be used to exploit psychological biases, technological infrastructure, and belief systems to control the narrative within the simulation. They might manipulate the code, subtly altering the rules of the game to maintain their advantage. This is where rituals and predictive programming come into play. Consider rituals as attempts to hack the simulation, to influence its outcomes through symbolic actions and focused intention. Think of predictive programming as a way of testing or implementing changes to the program, subtly introducing ideas and scenarios into the collective consciousness to gauge their impact and prepare the population for future events. It's manipulation operating on a deeper level than just surface-level influence. If this reality is a mind-dependent simulation, then the code cannot be altered without the consent of the masses. This is where mass media comes into play by conditioning the masses to desire certain things and accept others. Therefore, they utilize predictive programming to slowly introduce new agendas. This is because the code needs the consent of the masses to fully activate within our perceived reality. And by keeping the masses chasing these goals, they can be further manipulated. What are some specific ways this manipulation could manifest? Consider the concept of manufactured scarcity. What if scarcity of resources, time, or information is not a natural phenomenon, but a deliberate feature of the simulation, designed to create competition, division, and dependence on the system? This could be used to manipulate and control the masses, keeping them focused on survival rather than on questioning the nature of reality. It's like limiting the resources available to players in a game, forcing them to compete with each other and rely on the game's developers for assistance. How much of our daily lives are spent chasing things we don't truly need, simply because we believe they are scarce? Then there's the illusion of choice. The simulation might present a wide array of options, while subtly steering individuals towards predetermined outcomes. Political systems, economic models, even personal relationships might be designed to create the perception of freedom while limiting actual agency. It's like choosing between different brands of soda, all of which are owned by the same corporation. Are we truly free if our choices are limited to options that ultimately serve the interests of those in power? Here's a more controversial idea. What if negative emotions are harvested as energy within the simulation? What if the elite benefit from generating fear, anxiety, and anger in the population? This is a speculative idea, but it aligns with certain metaphysical concepts about the nature of energy and consciousness. It's like a power plant that feeds off negative emotions, using them to fuel the system. If this were true, then generating fear and anxiety would be a way for the elite to maintain their control. But there is hope. By recognizing these patterns, individuals can begin to withdraw their emotional energy and create alternative realities within the simulation. Like a player discovering a cheat code that unlocks new possibilities, we can begin to hack our own reality and reclaim our power. The first step is simply becoming aware. But how do we know what's real? One of the biggest challenges is determining what is real within a simulated environment. How do we distinguish between genuine experiences and programmed illusions? The limitations of our sensory perception and rational thought become starkly apparent. Relying solely on what we see here and think may not be enough. We need to develop our intuition, our inner knowing, to navigate this complex landscape. But even then, the simulation may be designed to deceive us at every turn. Cognitive dissonance can act as a powerful defense mechanism, preventing individuals from accepting the possibility of a simulated reality. The human mind is wired to protect the status quo of its known reality, even if that reality is a lie. Accepting the truth about the simulation would mean dismantling their entire worldview. It's easier to cling to the familiar, even if it's an illusion. How many people do you know that refuse to entertain new ideas and will only listen to the media they agree with? The NPC phenomenon offers another intriguing, if unsettling, perspective. What if some individuals are programmed to reinforce the status quo and discourage critical thinking? These non-player characters might not be consciously aware of their role, but their behavior serves to maintain the simulation's stability. This is a metaphorical concept, not a literal claim about certain people lacking consciousness. It's about recognizing the patterns of behavior that perpetuate the illusion. Ultimately, the first step towards reclaiming power is to acknowledge the limitations of our current understanding and be willing to explore alternative perspectives. Embrace uncertainty, question everything, and never stop searching for the truth, even if the truth is more unsettling than we ever imagined. By watching this far, you've implicitly taken the red pill, seeing how deep the rabbit hole goes. There is no going back, but the primary prison is the prison you do not realize you are in. Simply becoming aware of these manipulation tactics has an immediate impact. Even in a simulated reality, you have the power to shape your own experience. The rules of the simulation only work if you believe in them. In the next section, we'll explore practical strategies for hacking your own reality and creating a life of greater freedom, authenticity, and joy. Let's delve into practical strategies for reclaiming your mind and stepping outside the confines of the perceived simulation. If the elite seek to control the narrative, then the first line of defense is within your own mind. Think of your mind as a battlefield, a constant tug-of-war between internal and external forces vying for control. It's a garden, and what you plant through your thoughts, beliefs, and experiences will ultimately determine the fruits you harvest. What you allow into your garden, whether it be seeds of fear or seeds of love, will grow and shape your reality. External forces, like media narratives and social pressures, are constantly trying to plant seeds in your mind, but you have the power to choose which seeds to cultivate. This requires vigilance, self-awareness, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. Are you actively tending your mental garden, or are you letting weeds of negativity and manipulation take root? Recognizing this constant battle is the first step toward taking control of your own mental landscape, and therefore your reality. One tool for understanding and influencing your thought patterns is neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP. At its core, NLP is a model of how people structure their experiences. NLP offers techniques to identify and change limiting beliefs, reframe past experiences, and create new associations. For example, if you have a fear of public speaking, NLP can help you uncover the root cause of that fear, perhaps a past experience of embarrassment, and reframe it in a more positive light. You might visualize yourself confidently delivering a successful presentation, creating a new neural pathway that associates public speaking with positive emotions rather than fear. However, it's important to acknowledge the controversial nature of NLP. While it can be a powerful tool for self-improvement, it has also been used for manipulative purposes, such as in sales and marketing. Like any tool, NLP can be used for both positive and negative applications. The key is to approach it with awareness and discernment, ensuring that you are using it to empower yourself and others, rather than to control or manipulate. Affirmations and visualizations, when used together, are a potent combination for reprogramming the subconscious mind. Affirmations are positive statements that you repeat to yourself, reinforcing desired beliefs and outcomes. Visualizations involve creating mental images of your goals and dreams, experiencing them as if they are already real. The key is to utilize both in tandem, while feeling the positive emotion associated with it. For example, instead of simply repeating the affirmation, "I am successful," visualize yourself achieving a specific goal, feeling the joy and satisfaction of that accomplishment. Imagine receiving recognition for your hard work, celebrating with loved ones, and enjoying the rewards of your success. By combining positive affirmations with vivid visualizations and strong emotions, you can reprogram your subconscious mind to align with your desired reality. How could incorporating daily affirmations and visualizations shift your life's trajectory? Mindfulness and meditation are essential practices for cultivating mental clarity and developing awareness of your thoughts and emotions. These practices help you detach from your thoughts and observe them without judgment, creating space for conscious choice and change. Imagine your thoughts as clouds passing through the sky. Mindfulness allows you to observe these clouds without getting carried away by them. You simply notice them, acknowledge them, and let them pass. This creates a distance between you and your thoughts, preventing them from controlling your emotions and behaviors. Regular mindfulness practice can help you identify the patterns of your thinking, recognize negative thought loops, and interrupt the cycle of manipulation. Even a few minutes of daily meditation can significantly enhance your self-awareness and empower you to take control of your mental landscape. Do you give yourself the gift of quiet contemplation each day? But it's not enough to just reprogram yourself. We must also understand the tactics that others might use to control our minds. How can the elite seize control of a target's mind, and how can you protect yourself? Priming and suggestion are subtle but powerful techniques used to influence thoughts and behaviors. Priming involves exposing someone to certain stimuli, words, images, or sounds that unconsciously activate related concepts in their mind. This can make them more susceptible to specific suggestions. For example, studies have shown that exposure to words related to aging can unconsciously slow down people's walking speed. Similarly, exposure to images of money can make people more selfish and less willing to help others. Suggestion, on the other hand, involves directly planting ideas or beliefs in someone's mind, often by appealing to their emotions or authority figures. The media uses these techniques constantly. By understanding how priming and suggestion work, you can become more aware of their influence and resist their effects. Are you aware of the subtle cues that shape your perceptions and choices? Emotional manipulation tactics involve hijacking another's emotional state to gain control. Those skilled in the dark arts of NLP can determine an individual's anchor points for certain emotions. An anchor point is any stimulus, a word, a touch, a gesture, a symbol that triggers a specific emotional response. If someone wants to elicit a negative emotion, they can subtly activate the anchor point, bypassing the logical mind and directly triggering the desired emotion. This can be used to create fear, anxiety, or anger, making the target more susceptible to manipulation. For example, a politician might use fear-mongering rhetoric to activate people's anxieties about safety and security, making them more likely to support certain policies. Recognizing these emotional manipulation tactics is crucial for protecting yourself from their influence. When you notice your emotions being triggered, take a step back and ask yourself, is this a genuine response, or am I being manipulated? Hypnosis and trance states can be used to bypass the critical faculty and implant suggestions directly into the subconscious mind. Individuals can be induced into a trance state through various techniques, such as guided imagery, repetitive sounds, or even the hypnotic rhythm of social media scrolling. In this state, they become more receptive to suggestion and influence. Think of a stage hypnotist who convinces volunteers to perform ridiculous acts. While stage hypnosis is often presented as entertainment, it demonstrates the power of suggestion over the subconscious mind. The constant stream of information and entertainment on social media can induce a mild trance state, making users more vulnerable to targeted advertising and propaganda. This can be even further enhanced by the use of binaural beats or subliminal messages. Be aware of how these techniques can be used to subtly influence your thoughts and beliefs. Love bombing followed by isolation is a particularly insidious manipulative tactic often used in cults and abusive relationships. It begins with showering someone with excessive attention, praise, and affection, creating a sense of dependence and obligation. The target feels overwhelmed with positive emotions and believes they have finally found the perfect person or group. However, this is quickly followed by isolation, where the target is gradually cut off from their support network, family, friends, and colleagues. This makes them more vulnerable to manipulation and control. Without outside perspectives, the target becomes increasingly reliant on the manipulator for validation and guidance. This tactic exploits the basic human need for love and belonging, turning it into a tool for control. Is there someone in your life who has showered you with excessive attention, only to later isolate you from your support system? Understanding these tactics is vital, but true protection requires addressing deeper vulnerabilities within yourself. To truly be free, one must address the self-mastery requirement. Inner child wounds and unresolved trauma can make individuals particularly susceptible to manipulation. Past experiences of abuse, neglect, or abandonment can create emotional vulnerabilities that the elite can exploit. These traumas, when triggered, bypass the logical mind and activate primal survival instincts. For example, someone who experienced childhood neglect might be easily manipulated by someone who offers them attention and validation, even if that person has ulterior motives. These wounds can create a deep-seated need for approval and acceptance, making individuals more willing to compromise their own boundaries and beliefs. Healing these inner child wounds is essential for reclaiming personal power and building resilience against manipulation. Are there unresolved traumas in your past that might be making you vulnerable? Shadow work is a powerful process of integrating repressed emotions and reclaiming personal power. It involves acknowledging and accepting your dark side, the parts of yourself that you have rejected or disowned. This might include negative emotions like anger, jealousy, or shame, as well as undesirable traits like selfishness or aggression. By bringing these aspects of yourself into the light of consciousness, you can reduce their power over you. Shadow work can be done through journaling, meditation, or therapy. By accepting the totality of who you are, you become less vulnerable to manipulation and more empowered to live authentically. Building self-esteem and self-worth is paramount. Individuals with low self-esteem are more likely to seek validation from external sources, making them more vulnerable to manipulation. They might constantly seek approval from others, compromise their own values to fit in, or allow themselves to be taken advantage of. Developing a strong sense of self-worth, on the other hand, helps create internal validation. You recognize your own inherent value and don't need external approval to feel good about yourself. This makes you less susceptible to manipulation and more confident in your own choices. When you truly value yourself, you are less likely to tolerate mistreatment or compromise your own well-being. How can you begin to cultivate a deeper sense of self-worth today? Forgiveness, both of self and others, is transformative in breaking free from the cycle of manipulation. Holding on to resentment and anger keeps you trapped in the past, making you more vulnerable to future manipulation. These emotions drain your energy and cloud your judgment, making it harder to see the truth. Releasing these emotions through forgiveness creates space for healing and growth. Forgiveness doesn't mean condoning the actions of others, but it does mean releasing yourself from the burden of anger and resentment. And perhaps more importantly, forgiveness of self. You are imperfect and will make mistakes. You will be manipulated and fooled, but these things do not define you. Embrace your humanness and grow from these learning experiences. Ultimately, reclaiming your power involves stepping outside the simulation, transcending the limitations of the programmed self. But what does that truly mean? It begins with deconstructing the programmed self, questioning deeply held beliefs. If your entire world was created by another, would you want to keep living in it once you were self-aware? Deconstruction involves identifying and challenging the beliefs that have been implanted in your mind by family, society, and the elite. This can be a painful process, as it requires questioning everything you thought you knew to be true. But it's also liberating, as it allows you to create your own beliefs and values, based on your own experiences and intuition. Start by examining your core beliefs about yourself, the world, and your place in it. Where did these beliefs come from? Are they truly your own, or were they inherited from others? Are they serving you, or are they holding you back? Cultivating intuition and trusting your inner guidance is absolutely vital. Intuition can provide access to information beyond the scope of rational thought, offering insights and perspectives that are not readily apparent. It's that gut feeling that something is right or wrong, even when you can't explain why. Developing your intuition requires quieting the mind, listening to your inner voice, and trusting your instincts. Spend time in nature, practice meditation, and pay attention to your dreams. These practices can help you connect with your inner wisdom and develop a stronger sense of intuition. How can you create more space for intuition in your daily life? Creating alternative realities is an active process. By consciously choosing your beliefs, thoughts, and actions, you can manifest your desires and create a life aligned with your values. This involves using the power of intention, visualization, and affirmation to shape your reality. But this is extremely difficult if you do not believe you are able to do so. This is where shifting the perspective from being a small part of an infinite universe to the entire universe experiencing itself from a single point of perception. What if you are the simulator? What if you are source? Start small and trust the process. By focusing your attention and energy on what you want to create, you can begin to attract those things into your life. Finally, embrace the paradox that true freedom comes from relinquishing the need for control. Clinging to control creates anxiety and fear, making you more vulnerable to manipulation. The key is to surrender to the present moment and trust the unfolding of life. This doesn't mean becoming passive or apathetic, but rather releasing your grip on the illusion of control and allowing things to unfold naturally. Trust that you are exactly where you need to be and that everything is happening for your highest good. By surrendering to the flow of life, you can find a deeper sense of peace, freedom, and empowerment. But can these tools be used for defense? Or even offense? In the next section, we will explore weaponizing consciousness to defend yourself from the dark. But what if these techniques are not just used for personal manipulation, but on a global scale? What if the very fabric of our society is woven with threads of control, designed to keep us subjugated to an agenda we can barely perceive? Let's begin with the very foundation upon which modern society is built: money. We treat money as an objective reality, an undeniable truth. But what if money is nothing more than a shared belief system, a collective agreement that gives value to intrinsically worthless pieces of paper or digital numbers? Think about it: gold, silver, even cryptocurrencies derive their value not from their inherent properties, but from the belief that others will accept them in exchange for goods and services. This shared belief, like any belief system, can be manipulated. Those who control the flow of money control the narrative. How easily would the masses fall for any manipulation if they had no monetary means of survival? Central banking systems and debt-based economies are the primary mechanisms through which this manipulation occurs. Central banks, often presented as neutral entities managing monetary policy, have the power to influence interest rates, control the money supply, and ultimately impact inflation, employment, and economic growth. By manipulating these levers, they can create booms and busts, enriching some while impoverishing others. But the true insidious nature lies in the debt-based system itself. We are encouraged to borrow money for everything: education, homes, cars, trapping us in cycles of debt that keep us dependent on the system. Corporations and even entire nations become beholden to creditors, limiting their autonomy and freedom. Is this dependency an accident, or is it a carefully constructed mechanism of control? Because remember, where money flows, power flows. The more money you possess, the greater your ability to influence the world around you. You can fund political campaigns, shape media narratives, and invest in technologies that further consolidate your power. Consider the influence of major corporations on government policies. Through lobbying and campaign contributions, they can sway legislation in their favor, creating a regulatory environment that benefits their bottom line while often harming the public interest. The concentration of wealth in the hands of a few individuals and institutions translates directly into the concentration of power, allowing them to shape society in their image. Is it any wonder that wealth disparity is constantly widening? And what if some financial crises aren't accidental market corrections, but deliberately engineered events, orchestrated to consolidate wealth and power in the hands of a select few? It's a controversial hypothesis, but consider the historical pattern. Economic downturns often lead to the transfer of assets from the masses to the elite. During a crisis, those with access to capital can buy up distressed assets at bargain prices, profiting from the misfortune of others. They can also use their influence to manipulate regulations, creating a system that further benefits them while hindering their competitors. The 2008 financial crisis, for example, resulted in massive bailouts for the banks, while millions of people lost their homes and savings. Did those in power truly not see it coming? But financial control is only one piece of the puzzle. To truly control reality, one must control the narrative, and that's where information warfare comes into play. We've already explored how media manipulation can shape individual perceptions, but its impact on a global scale is even more profound. International news organizations, often owned or influenced by powerful interests, can be used to shape public opinion, promote specific agendas, and even influence geopolitical events. By carefully framing events, selectively reporting information, and demonizing enemies, they can create a narrative that justifies wars, promotes specific policies, and consolidates power. The portrayal of certain countries as rogue states or the constant emphasis on the threat of terrorism are examples of how these techniques are used to manufacture consent for military intervention and surveillance programs. How often do we stop to question the narratives we are fed by the global media? But it's not just about what is said. The suppression of dissenting voices and alternative perspectives is equally crucial for maintaining control. Censorship and shadow banning on social media platforms have become increasingly prevalent, limiting the reach of certain content and stifling discussions on sensitive topics. Algorithms can be used to subtly manipulate the information people see, creating filter bubbles and echo chambers that reinforce existing beliefs. This not only limits exposure to diverse viewpoints, but also makes individuals more susceptible to misinformation and propaganda. Where do you get your news? And have you ever checked to see if those sources align with your own beliefs? And even more alarming is the weaponization of social media. Social media platforms, designed to connect people and facilitate communication, can be used to spread disinformation, incite violence, and destabilize societies. Foreign actors can use social media to interfere in elections, sow discord, and promote extremist ideologies. The anonymity and reach of these platforms make it difficult to trace the source of the information and to counter its effects. Even more worryingly, the algorithms that govern these platforms can be manipulated to amplify certain messages and suppress others, creating a distorted view of reality. This makes me wonder, do you truly have free thought if what you think is pre-programmed? But perhaps the most insidious aspect of information warfare is the undermining of truth itself. The goal isn't necessarily to convince the audience of a particular truth, but to create so much confusion and doubt that they lose faith in the very concept of objective reality. If people believe that it's impossible to ever discover the truth, they become more susceptible to manipulation and control. This can be achieved through the spread of conspiracy theories, the promotion of relativism, and the constant questioning of established facts. The result is a society where people are so overwhelmed with conflicting information that they simply give up trying to discern the truth. What if the truth isn't even what you think it is? Beyond the manipulation of money and information, the elite also exert control through the very structure of our society. Education, healthcare, and the prison system are all mechanisms for social conditioning and control. The education system, often presented as a means of empowerment and social mobility, can also be used to indoctrinate students and reinforce specific values and beliefs. The curriculum may be designed to promote conformity, obedience, and acceptance of the status quo. Critical thinking skills may be discouraged in favor of rote memorization, and students may be taught to accept authority without question. The constant emphasis on standardized testing and grades can create a culture of competition and anxiety, diverting attention from deeper learning and personal growth. How much of what you were taught in school has helped you in life? The medical-industrial complex, driven by profit motives and influenced by powerful pharmaceutical companies, also subtly erodes autonomy and individuality. While modern medicine has made incredible strides in treating diseases and extending lifespans, the focus on treating symptoms rather than addressing root causes can create dependence on medication and limit access to alternative therapies. The financial incentives of pharmaceutical companies can also influence healthcare policies and practices, prioritizing profits over patient well-being. The overprescription of antibiotics, for example, has contributed to the rise of antibiotic-resistant bacteria, posing a serious threat to public health. Are we treating the symptom or the problem? And the prison industrial complex, a particularly egregious example of structural manipulation, profits directly from incarceration and maintains social control. Private prisons, with financial incentives to keep prisons full, lobby for harsher sentencing laws and increased rates of incarceration. This disproportionately affects marginalized communities, perpetuating cycles of poverty and inequality. The prison system can also be used to suppress dissent and control populations deemed undesirable by those in power. How can we fix this? And what about the illusion of democracy? While democratic processes are often touted as the fairest and most equitable form of government, they can be easily manipulated to serve the interests of the elite. Campaign finance, laws, lobbying, and gerrymandering can distort the political process and limit the power of ordinary citizens. Special interests can use their wealth and influence to sway elections, control the legislative agenda, and undermine the will of the people. The revolving door between government and the private sector allows individuals to profit from their positions of power, further entrenching the elite and eroding public trust. Does your vote really matter? But what if the control extends beyond the physical and the material, reaching into the higher dimensions of reality? There is the idea that the elite may possess and utilize occult knowledge and symbolism to influence reality on a deeper level. Certain symbols and rituals may be used to manipulate energy fields, influence collective consciousness, or even communicate with other dimensions. The use of sacred geometry in architecture, the placement of monuments and landmarks, and the performance of rituals during specific astrological alignments may all be part of a larger strategy to shape reality according to a predetermined plan. Are you aware of the symbols that surround you every day and the power that they hold? Frequency and vibration could also be used as tools for influencing human consciousness and behavior. Certain frequencies, e.g., those associated with fear or anxiety, may be used to manipulate emotions and create a state of unease. The constant bombardment of negative news and violent entertainment can lower the overall vibration of society, making people more susceptible to control. But the inverse is also true. Higher frequencies associated with love, joy, and compassion can uplift consciousness and empower individuals to resist manipulation. How often do you expose yourself to positive and uplifting frequencies? and the manipulation of time. Events may be timed to coincide with astrological alignments or other significant dates, amplifying their impact and influencing collective consciousness. Major historical events, such as wars, economic crashes, and political assassinations, may be planned to coincide with specific astrological events, harnessing the energy of these alignments to achieve desired outcomes. This idea goes hand in hand with the concept of tapping into quantum fields. In quantum physics, a quantum field is a field that quantizes a classical field. There are those that are trying to manipulate, utilize, and work with them. But here's the crucial point. This isn't a game that only they can play. We, too, possess the power to influence reality, to tap into these higher dimensions, and to reclaim our collective power. How? By embracing strategies of resistance that empower individuals and communities to break free from the cycle of control. Decentralization and localization are essential for shifting power away from centralized institutions and creating more resilient and self-sufficient communities. Supporting local businesses, growing your own food, and creating alternative economic systems can reduce dependence on global corporations and centralized governments. Creating community-based initiatives, such as neighborhood gardens, coops, and mutual aid networks, can strengthen social bonds and empower individuals to take control of their lives. Do you know your neighbors? Do you support local businesses? Supporting alternative media outlets and creating alternative information networks is also extremely important. By supporting independent journalists, creating your own blogs or podcasts, and sharing information on social media, you can help to counter the dominant narratives and promote diverse perspectives. Fact-checking information, verifying sources, and critically evaluating the information you consume can help you to discern the truth and resist manipulation. Where does your information come from? Is it verified? Conscious consumerism and ethical investing can shift economic power away from unethical corporations and towards sustainable and socially responsible businesses. By making informed choices about how you spend your money and where you invest it, you can support companies that align with your values and boycott those that don't. Investing in renewable energy, supporting fair trade practices, and donating to charitable organizations can create a more just and sustainable world. Are your dollars contributing to the problem or the solution? Ultimately, the key is to create alternative systems that operate independently of the current paradigm. This requires a shift in consciousness, a realization that you do not need approval from anyone to be able to live your life. You have the power to create your own reality, to build your own communities, and to define your own values. The more that those in power want control, the more important it is for you to take control of your own life. But how do you protect yourself from those that want to steal your power? How do you weaponize consciousness to fight back? The first step in taking back control is knowing yourself intimately. Self-awareness is more than just knowing your favorite color or your astrological sign. It's about understanding the intricate tapestry of your being, your values, your beliefs, your triggers, and your emotional responses. This inner landscape is where your true power resides. The more deeply you connect with yourself, the less susceptible you become to external forces trying to manipulate you. Think of it as building a fortress of self, brick by brick, until you are impenetrable to the barbs of deceit. Someone fully aware of their deepest values is far less likely to compromise them, no matter the external pressure. The unexamined life, as Socrates famously said, is not worth living, and in this age of manipulation, it is also far more easily controlled. Our emotions are not random occurrences, but rather sophisticated indicators that guide us. They act as an internal guidance system, signaling when we are aligned with our true selves and when we are straying off course. When we are connected to our core values, we know what we truly want, and our emotions serve as a compass, pointing us in the right direction. Conversely, when we experience negative emotions like anxiety, fear, or anger, It's a sign that something is amiss. Perhaps we are compromising our values, allowing ourselves to be manipulated, or straying from our authentic path. For example, consider the feeling of unease you might experience when someone tries to pressure you into making a decision quickly. That feeling is your intuition telling you to slow down, to examine the situation more closely, and to resist being manipulated. Journaling and self-reflection are powerful tools for cultivating self-awareness. By regularly taking the time to write down your thoughts and feelings, you can gain valuable insights into your patterns of behavior, your limiting beliefs, and your core values. Start by setting aside just 15-20 minutes each day for journaling. Don't worry about writing perfectly or grammatically. Simply allow your thoughts to flow freely onto the page. Some simple prompts to get you started. What are my core values? What are my biggest fears? What are my recurring patterns of behavior? What am I grateful for? As you consistently engage in these reflections, over time you'll begin to notice recurring themes, understand your emotional responses, and become more attuned to your inner landscape. This practice creates a space between stimulus and response, allowing you to consciously choose how you react rather than being driven by unconscious programming. Seeking honest feedback is also crucial. It can be difficult to see our own blind spots, which is why it's so important to get feedback from people who care about us and are willing to be honest. However, it's important to discern between constructive criticism and destructive negativity. Seek feedback from trusted sources whose intentions are pure and who have your best interests at heart. Be open to hearing what they have to say, even if it's difficult. Ask them specific questions about your behavior, your communication style, or your decision-making process. For example, you might ask a trusted friend, "Do you notice any patterns in my behavior that might be holding me back? Or am I communicating my needs clearly?" Remember, the goal isn't to seek validation, but to gain a more objective perspective on yourself. Beyond understanding yourself, you need to be able to think critically about the information that you're receiving. Critical thinking is the ability to analyze information objectively and form a reasoned judgment. It involves evaluating evidence, identifying assumptions, detecting biases, and drawing logical conclusions. In a world saturated with misinformation and propaganda, critical thinking is an essential skill for protecting yourself from manipulation. If you can start to think critically, you can determine what is a manipulation and what is the truth. The more that you can identify what is not true, you can get closer to the real truth. To achieve that end, deconstructing arguments and identifying logical fallacies are key skills in the arsenal of a critical thinker. Logical fallacies are flaws in reasoning that render an argument invalid. They are often used intentionally to manipulate or deceive. Recognizing these fallacies can help you to see through the deceptive tactics and evaluate the merits of an argument. For example, the straw man fallacy involves misrepresenting an opponent's argument to make it easier to attack. The ad hominem fallacy involves attacking the person making the argument rather than the argument itself. A false dilemma presents only two options when more exist. When someone presents a false dilemma, they are trying to limit your choices and force you to choose between two options, neither of which may be ideal. Learning to recognize these fallacies will make you a more discerning consumer of information. In addition to identifying fallacies, fact-checking and source verification are also crucial. With the proliferation of fake news and misinformation, it's more important than ever to verify the accuracy of the information you encounter. Before sharing or believing something, take the time to check the source and the facts. Look for credible sources that have a reputation for accuracy and objectivity. Be wary of websites with sensational headlines, anonymous authors, or a clear political agenda. Check the credibility of a website by looking at its domain name, its About Use page, and its sources. Use fact-checking websites to verify the accuracy of claims and statistics. Cross-reference information from multiple sources to get a more complete picture. In the modern world, media literacy is of utmost importance. Media literacy involves understanding how media messages are constructed, how they influence our perceptions, and how to analyze them critically. Be mindful of the potential for hidden agendas. Pay attention to the language used, the images chosen, and the perspectives presented. Ask yourself who created the message, what their purpose is, and who benefits from it. Encourage viewers to compare news coverage from different sources, identify the use of loaded language, and be aware of the potential for hidden agendas. By developing your media literacy skills, you can become a more informed and empowered consumer of media. But protecting yourself against manipulation involves more than just intellectual skills. It also requires setting boundaries, detaching from external validation, and cultivating emotional resilience. Setting clear boundaries is essential for protecting your time, your energy, and your values. Learn to say no to requests that violate your boundaries or drain your resources. No is a complete sentence. You do not need to explain it to anyone. It is your life, and you have the right to dictate what you allow into it. Setting boundaries is not selfish. It's a necessary act of self-preservation. Finding validation from within, rather than seeking it from external sources, is also crucial for maintaining your autonomy. Relying on social media for validation sets you up for disappointment. Your self-worth should not depend on how many likes you get. Cultivate a sense of self-acceptance and self-love. Practice self-compassion and be kind to yourself, especially when you make mistakes. Focus on your inner strengths and accomplishments and celebrate your unique qualities. When you derive your sense of worth from within, you become less susceptible to external pressures and manipulations. Cultivating emotional resilience will allow you to withstand the ups and downs of life without being easily swayed by others. Find healthy ways to manage stress, such as exercise, spending time in nature, practicing mindfulness, and connecting with supportive friends and family. Develop coping mechanisms for dealing with difficult emotions like anger, fear, and sadness. Practice self-care and prioritize your mental and emotional well-being. When you are emotionally resilient, you're better able to maintain your composure, make rational decisions, and resist manipulation. Finally, it is important to limit your exposure to negative or manipulative media. Curate your media consumption by unfollowing accounts that promote negativity or misinformation and seeking out sources of positive and empowering content. Reduce your overall screen time and spend more time engaging in activities that nourish your soul, such as reading, spending time in nature, or pursuing your passions. Be mindful of the information you are consuming and how it is affecting your mood, your thoughts, and your behavior. By limiting your exposure to negativity, you can create a more positive and empowering environment for yourself. Remember, the environment that you create for yourself is important for your overall well-being. The people that you allow into your life will impact who you are. Connecting with like-minded individuals who share your values and support your goals is very important. By being a part of online communities, attending local events, or starting your own support group, you can find people that will lift you up. If you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. You should always be striving to learn. But that is not possible if you aren't around the right people. And since you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with, you need to choose wisely who you allow to be close to you. Be around the ones who are going to help you grow and who want to see you succeed. If they don't truly have your best interest at heart, then you need to cut ties. It can be hard, but you need to put yourself first. Remember, the power of collective action can create a ripple effect. Support organizations that are working to promote social justice, environmental protection, or other causes that you care about. By working together, we can create positive change. In turn, you can become a beacon of hope for those around you. You're going to have friends, family, and possibly strangers that don't understand you. Understand that you can be a light for them. Just because they do not understand doesn't mean that they won't one day. You have to be the leader and not let them deter you from the path. The most important thing is to remember that you are connected to something bigger than yourself. Explore your spirituality and connect with something larger than yourself through prayer, meditation, spending time in nature, or engaging in acts of service. Trust your intuition, as it is your internal guidance system. The more it speaks, the more you are on the right path. Your intuition will not lead you astray and will always guide you towards the best decision. The more you practice listening to your intuition, the stronger it will get. Align your thoughts, words, and actions with your core values. If you value honesty, then be honest in your interactions with others. If you value compassion, then practice compassion towards yourself and others. When you are living in alignment with your values, you are more authentic, more congruent, and more empowered. Lastly, you need to embrace the mystery of life and to be open to new possibilities. Not everything can be explained or understood, and that it's okay to embrace uncertainty and trust that everything is unfolding as it should. This reality is a vast, complex, and often unpredictable. But if you can let go of the need for control and trust the process, then you can navigate any challenges that come your way. So how do we take all of these defense mechanisms and use them to step into our power? It begins by understanding the subtle ways in which our reality is being shaped, often without our conscious awareness. And one of the most pervasive is through the manipulation of our perception of time. Have you ever felt like there just aren't enough hours in the day? That feeling isn't accidental. The elite understand that a population constantly struggling with time scarcity is far easier to control. When we're stressed and rushed, we're less likely to engage in critical thinking, question authority, or pursue our passions. We become automatons, blindly following the prescribed path. Consider the always-on-work culture that has become so prevalent. The expectation to be constantly available, to answer emails at all hours, to sacrifice personal time for professional obligations, this creates a perpetual state of anxiety and overwhelm. And the never-ending to-do lists, the constant bombardment of information from news outlets and social media, all contribute to this sense of being perpetually behind, of never quite catching up. Are you noticing a pattern here? This isn't about mere productivity, it's about control. By keeping us in a state of chronic time scarcity, those in power can effectively limit our ability to think for ourselves and to challenge the status quo. This manipulation extends to our leisure time as well. The constant barrage of entertainment options, the endless scroll of social media feeds, these are designed to fragment our attention and prevent us from engaging in deep reflection. Streaming services are engineered to be addictive, constantly vying for our attention and hijacking our focus. How often do you find yourself mindlessly binge-watching shows, only to realize that hours have passed and you haven't accomplished anything meaningful? This isn't just a harmless pastime, it's a deliberate strategy to keep us distracted and docile. Furthermore, consider the concept of predictive programming. The idea that through media and cultural narratives, the elite can create expectations about the future that then influence people's choices, leading to the predicted outcome. Think about major events like 9/11. Did the constant portrayal of terrorist threats in movies and television shows create a climate of fear that made the public more willing to accept draconian security measures? Or how about the 2008 financial crisis? Did the constant drumbeat of warnings about an impending economic collapse contribute to the panic that triggered the crisis itself? It's not about predicting the future. It's about shaping it by manipulating our perceptions and expectations. So, how do we reclaim our time and break free from this illusion of scarcity? The first step is to become mindful of how you're spending your time. Track your activities for a week and identify the time sucks, the activities that drain your energy and contribute nothing to your well-being. Then, implement strategies to reclaim your time, such as time blocking, where you schedule specific blocks of time for specific activities, and mindful scheduling, where you prioritize activities that align with your values and goals. Disconnecting from technology is also essential. Set aside specific times each day to unplug from your devices and reconnect with yourself and the world around you. Go for a walk in nature, read a book, meditate, or simply spend time with loved ones. Beyond the manipulation of time, there's also the control of essential resources. The elite understand that by monopolizing access to food, water, energy, and information, they can maintain power and create dependence. Consider the way corporations can patent seeds, effectively controlling the food supply and forcing farmers to rely on them. Or think about how water supplies are increasingly being privatized, making access to this essential resource dependent on wealth and privilege. And the manipulation of energy markets, where artificial scarcity is created to drive up prices and extract wealth from the masses. These aren't isolated incidents. They're part of a deliberate strategy to concentrate power and control. But it goes even deeper than that. The elite also understand the power of emotional energy. They know that by creating conflict and division within society, they can generate a constant stream of negative emotions like fear, anger, and sadness. They can then siphon off and use to maintain their power. Think about false flag events, where attacks are staged to manipulate public opinion and justify political agendas. Or consider the way social media algorithms are designed to amplify outrage and division, creating echo chambers where people are constantly bombarded with information that confirms their existing beliefs and reinforces their biases. This isn't just about manipulating individuals, it's about manipulating the collective emotional field. And what about the suppression of alternative energy technologies? The controversial theory that free energy technologies have been suppressed for decades due to the threat they pose to the established power structure. Nikola Tesla, for example, who pioneered revolutionary energy technologies, only to have his work suppressed and discredited. Is it possible that these technologies have the potential to liberate us from our dependence on fossil fuels and create a more sustainable future, but they are being deliberately kept out of our reach? How do we break free from this cycle of control and create a more equitable distribution of resources? Supporting local communities is key. Investing in sustainable businesses and practicing emotional self-regulation to avoid being drained by negative influences. This leads us to a darker, more esoteric aspect of control, the influence of non-physical entities that feed on human emotional energy. These entities, known as archons in Gnostic teachings, are believed to be parasitic beings that attach themselves to individuals and societies, manipulating them to generate negative emotions like fear, anger, and despair. Think of them as energetic vampires, constantly seeking to drain our vitality and keep us in a state of suffering. Connect the archon concept to the simulation hypothesis by suggesting that these entities may be bugs or viruses within the program. Perhaps archons are not necessarily malevolent beings, but rather unintended consequences of the simulation's design, feeding off the energy imbalances within the system. Imagine them as glitches in the matrix, exploiting vulnerabilities in the code. How might these archons manifest in our lives and in society? They may influence thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, leading to feelings of anxiety, depression, addiction, and conflict. They may amplify negative tendencies, exacerbate existing problems, and create new sources of suffering. In society, they may manifest as oppressive systems, corrupt institutions, and divisive ideologies. The key is to become aware of their influence and take steps to protect yourself. To do this, visualization can be used. Imagine a shield of light surrounding you, deflecting negative energy and preventing archons from attaching to you. Meditation can help you to clear your mind, quiet your thoughts, and connect with your inner power. Prayer can invoke divine protection and guidance. And protective symbols or crystals can be used as talismans to ward off negative influences. Understand that these protections require constant maintenance. It's not a one-time fix. It's an ongoing practice. You have to remain vigilant and proactive in protecting your energy field. But even with the best defenses, it's impossible to completely eliminate the influence of these forces. The key is to learn how to transmute negative energy into positive energy, to turn suffering into strength, and to use your experiences to grow and evolve. Now, let's discuss how we can create new timelines through timeline jumping. Every choice we make creates a new timeline, and that by consciously choosing our thoughts, beliefs, and actions, we can shift to a timeline that is more aligned with our desires. It's like surfing the waves of reality, choosing the wave that will take you where you want to go. To do this, focus your attention and set clear intentions to create the desired timeline. Visualize the reality you want to experience. Create a clear picture of your goals. Align emotion with the intention, but you must also release attachments to the current timeline to fully embrace a new one. Clinging to past regrets, fears, or limiting beliefs can prevent you from moving forward and creating a better future. Let go of the need for control and trust that everything is unfolding as it should. Instead, practice gratitude daily, focusing on the good things in your lives and appreciating the opportunities that are available to you. All of this leads us to the concept of the source field, which is the infinite source of energy, intelligence, and creativity that underlies all of reality. Understand that the source field is not a religious or spiritual concept, but rather a scientific one, referring to the quantum field from which all matter and energy emerge. By connecting to the source field, you can tap into its unlimited potential and manifest your desires. So how do we connect to this field? Meditation, mindfulness, spending time in nature, and engaging in creative activities will open yourself up to the flow of energy and inspiration. And what comes next? You align your thoughts, beliefs, and actions with the energy of the source field, so you can attract synchronicities, opportunities, and resources that support your goals. But the elite attempt to control access to the source field by manipulating consciousness and limiting human potential. By reclaiming your connection to the source field, you can transcend their control and become a sovereign creator of your own reality. So there you have it. We've explored how historical manipulation tactics exploit our psychological biases, amplified by technology to create a simulated reality in which a select few seek to maintain control. Recognizing these connections is the first step toward dismantling their power. But what is the core component of this control? Manipulation tactics have no power without a belief to hook into. By controlling beliefs, the elite control perceived reality. Reclaiming personal power, therefore, starts with examining and consciously choosing your beliefs. Question everything. What do you truly believe and why? Are those beliefs serving you, or are they holding you back? Remember the observer effect. Your attention shapes your reality. By shifting your focus, you can rewrite your experience. The techniques for reprogramming the self, practicing mindfulness, and consciously creating new timelines are not just abstract concepts. They are powerful tools for reshaping your world. But what about free will? Even if we're in a simulation, our choices still matter. Every decision creates a new possibility, a new branch in the timeline. And perhaps more importantly, the belief in free will is itself a powerful force for change. Embrace the power of choice. Consciously choose your thoughts, your actions, and your beliefs. You are the author of your own story. This isn't just about improving your own life. It's about reclaiming your inherent right to self-governance and shaping your own destiny. Individual sovereignty means taking responsibility for your own thoughts, feelings, and actions, refusing to be a puppet in someone else's play. As more individuals wake up and reclaim their power, we create a ripple effect that can transform society as a whole. Individual action contributes to a larger movement. Every act of conscious creation, every act of resistance against manipulation, contributes to the collective shift. But remember, the goal isn't to become the programmers, but to exit the program. By focusing on compassion, empathy, and collaboration, we can create a world beyond manipulation. The true path to freedom lies not in becoming the elite ourselves, but in transcending the desire for power and control altogether. So, use your newfound understanding responsibly and ethically, avoiding the temptation to manipulate others. With great knowledge comes great responsibility. Use your power to uplift and empower, not to control or exploit. How can we foster a more ethical and conscious society? It starts with each of us taking responsibility for our own actions and choices. Be mindful of the impact you have on others, and always strive to act in a way that promotes well-being and harmony. It's okay to feel confused or overwhelmed. The journey of awakening is a process, not a destination. There will be times when you feel lost or uncertain, but remember that you are not alone. There are many others who are on this path with you, and there are resources available to support you. Fear is a tool of control. By recognizing it for what it is, you can disarm it. Replace fear with curiosity, courage, and a commitment to truth. What are you afraid of and why? Question your fears, examine their origins, and challenge their validity. Often, you'll find that your fears are based on misinformation or limiting beliefs. The universe is a mystery, and that's okay. The journey of discovery is more important than arriving at a final destination. So, embrace uncertainty, live with questions, and trust that you are exactly where you need to be. Ultimately, the most important thing is to find what resonates with your personal truth. As technology continues to advance, the methods of control will become even more sophisticated. It is up to each individual to stay vigilant and committed to upholding their internal sovereignty. What new forms of manipulation might emerge in the age of AI and transhumanism? By staying informed, thinking critically, and cultivating your inner strength, you can protect yourself from these threats. And remember, there are dimensions of reality beyond our current perception. By expanding our consciousness, we can unlock new possibilities and create a world beyond our wildest dreams. In future videos, we will delve deeper into specific techniques for accessing these states. The journey of awakening is not a solitary one. By connecting with others, we can support each other, share our knowledge, and create a powerful force for change. Share your thoughts in the comments section and suggest topics for future videos. I want to hear about your experiences, your insights, and your strategies for resistance. What have you learned on your journey of awakening? How are you reclaiming your power and creating a better future? Start by examining your beliefs, questioning your assumptions, and consciously choosing your thoughts and actions. Spend 5 minutes in meditation or write down your core values. The power to change your world lies within you. Now go out there and create the reality you